All right, welcome to the 2020 U.S. Sailing Annual Meeting. I want to thank all of our guests for participating today and joining us on this Saturday. We hope that you are doing well and having a good day. We are looking forward to presenting this virtually this year. Typically, we have an annual meeting that is in person, and this year we are doing it virtually to accommodate some of the COVID travel restrictions. But we see it as a great opportunity to engage with our membership and share a little bit more about what we're doing. So we hope that you learn a little today, take away some action items, and engage with us in the future because we'd love to hear from you. With that, just a few housekeeping items, as we call it on the board. We will be monitoring the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those as we get going here. But if we don't, we will be following up with you directly. We also have a link that was going to be shared for our list of board of directors, which also includes all of our email addresses. So please feel free to take a look at that, get to know us as we want to get to know you, and feel free to email us with any questions or concerns that you have. This show is being recorded and it will be posted on our Starboard portal, which has been our vehicle to get information to our membership this year. We're very excited about the content we've provided and will continue to provide our membership going forward. We will be having the virtual town hall that we've shared with all our membership that starts at noon. So we hope that you will stick around and join us for that. And again, that will be posted online. So as we move into our board meeting, as Secretary of the Board of Directors, my name is Martine Zarinskis out of Atlanta, Georgia. Proud to serve this board and be on the board for 5 years. I want to just do a quick roll call with our board. If you could raise your hand in the screen and let us know if you are present. I'm also monitoring the participant list as well. So if I don't see you and you join late, that's fine. We have Meredith, staff with our Olympic department, Henry Brower. Thank you very much, Henry. Rich Jepson, Vice President out of California. Tony Ray out of Newport area. Jack Gearhart. Thank you, Jack, our CEO. John Schoendorf, our treasurer out of Miami. Thank you, John. Bill Rue, head of the U.S. Sailing Foundation out of California. Claire Cooper, head of our Sailor Athlete Council out of New Orleans and part of our board. Russ Lucas out of New Jersey. Dave Perry has his excuses today. He had a conflict, but we appreciate his service to the board. Charlie Arms out of the Maryland area. Bruce Burton, if you joined us a little bit late, he was getting on. Thank you, Bruce, out of the Florida and Grosse Pointe area. Brianna, currently out of Vermont, also Florida. She is actually representing the board as a sailor athlete. And I think I got anybody. Did I miss anyone? All right, moving ahead, I did want to just have a moment to introduce two people that are on this call that will be approved as our incoming sailor athlete representatives, Maggie Shea and Judge Ryan. They're also joining us on this call. At the conclusion of this meeting, they will become official board members. So we look forward to having them. All right, Madam President, would you like to do a quick intro to this meeting?
Thank you, Martine, and good morning, everybody. Yes, it's been quite a year. This time last year, we were in Chicago, and we had no thoughts about what was going to happen in the next 12 months. And I really want to thank our board, especially my ex-com of John Schoendorf, Martine, and Rich Jepson, who spent a lot of time rallying the rest of the board and working with our awesome staff team to pivot, to embrace the opportunities that we've had this year, and to bring us to where we are today. It's been a team effort, and I really appreciate everybody's efforts. I've really been impressed with how active our board's been, contributing, challenging, and being part of moving U.S. sailing forward into 2021. Especially want to thank everybody who supported me personally over the last couple months of adventures. As people on the call know, I was recently elected as a World Sailing Vice President, which I take on that role as of last week. And it's been a real privilege for me over the last 20 years being a delegate to World Sailing from US Sailing. And I look forward to the opportunity of being on World Sailing's board and supporting the sport on a worldwide basis moving forward. But I have another year left as US Sailing's president, and indeed that has really been a privilege for me to lead this organization. And I'm especially proud of the work our board has done over the last year with really refocusing our efforts and really looking hard at both in the mirror and what we've done and what we can do in the future with respect to refocusing our strategic initiatives. We continue to work on that, and we've made a big effort to understand our responsibilities as the national governing body of the sport, making sure that we put Olympics in the right perspective, which is a number one priority of what we do as the national governing body of the sport, while balancing all the other really key things we do and responsibilities for bringing new people in the sport, all the awesome education products that we offer, and stewarding the racing competitive side of the sport. All really important, really core to our business and part of our traditions. So we as a board are leading that effort and looking at policies that balance all the things that we need to do and raising the bar. And we're inspired by what being part of the Olympic movement does for us as being the national governing body of sailing. We're inspired by all of our athletes that we're supporting who are on their journey toward excellence. And all of us, and I know all of our staff members, are working really hard in their areas of expertise to be the best we can be. So with that message, and this annual meeting is a requirement for us for our business, and also an opportunity to reflect on the good things. And then our town hall this afternoon will be a look forward to what we're doing and a chance for our members to ask questions. And I look forward to that and look forward to 2021. And I will, at this point in time, turn everything over to our CEO, Jack Gearhart, for his remarks. Thank you.
Good morning.
Jack, sorry, Jack, can I just interrupt real quick?
Sure.
I neglected one of the board members that is on the call. I apologize. I missed her screenshot on the roll call. Want to also welcome Katie Pettibone. She's new to the board this year as our select director, and excited to have her present as part of a voice of our Olympians and our sailor athletes. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Martine. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. I have a few slides, so please bear with me. And we'll get this up and running here. All right, does that show up okay? You good? All right. Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for that intro, Corey. As she said, and I think as we all know, it's been a very interesting year for all of us. Let's see if I can get this thing to go down. There. And it's been a challenge and sort of energizing this year to make the shifts that we needed to make and keeping the organization moving forward, keeping the sport supported. What I want to do is give you just a brief overview of sort of where we are, what we've had to deal with year to date, talk a little bit about some of the things that we've accomplished. As Corey said, it created an opportunity for us to make some progress actually on quite a few things. And then I will turn it over to Heather Monison, who is our new CFO, and she'll talk to you a little bit about the current state and how we're performing against our revised budget. There's also another person I'd like to introduce, which is Jill Nosach, who has joined us. This is the end of her second week. She's the new Chief Development Officer for the foundation. We're excited to have her and Heather on board to work with us on our financial side of things and the resources that we're going to be bringing in to support our strategic plan going forward. So please join me in welcoming them. It's great to have two new really talented and experienced team members on the staff team. So starting back in March when this whole thing opened up and hit us all, we made some pretty big shifts. We worked to revise our budget. The thing that's been really impacted the most has been just our general program revenue, our ability to deliver our small boat programs, the keelboat programs. Obviously, a lot of racing did not happen this past season. So that impacted the offshore office, and pretty much across the board, the services and programs really took a big hit. From a financial standpoint, you can see our revenue, revised revenue budget is down about, I gotta move the screen here, 26%. And we made some adjustments on the expense side correspondingly to make those corrections and adjustments. You can sort of see where that impact has happened. One of the areas that has remained relatively strong has been our membership. And that's due to, I think, all of you on the phone and your fellow members across the country that have been very supportive in renewing and providing support, additional donations to the organization. That's really kept us going. Is a good part of our program revenue has did not show up this year. To address the expense side of things, obviously travel was cut, and that's a significant expense on our side. We actually took a salary reduction, the entire staff, and temporarily suspended our retirement contributions from U.S. Sailing into the staff retirement accounts. The good news there is, starting at the beginning of October, our financial position had improved enough to start to reinstate salaries, and those will be fully reinstated by the beginning of December, which I'm really pleased about. Unfortunately, we also had to let several staff members go, about 9% of the staff, 5 people in total, and it's always disappointing to have to do that. A lot of great people that have contributed to the organization, but there were some parts of the business that were just not active, and we needed to reserve and sort of make sure we had resources going forward. So hopefully we'll be working to rebuild in the coming months and year, and potentially get some of those folks back. We were lucky. We had a great team working on a PPP loan that provided a lot of support for us. It was about $800,000, and that came in very handy, as enabled us to continue to deliver our programs and services and support. And finally, this, with a shift in what we were able to do, we made a lot of progress on some areas of things that we had to do to make adjustments, as well as some programs and things that we wanted to make changes to over the past several years that we really hadn't had the opportunity to. So I'm going to give you a little update on what those were. I think probably some of you have managed to see and experience those as well. One of the big areas that obviously COVID and being somewhat stuck at home and isolated and not being able to run our programs as we normally do, is we really accelerated our online learning curriculum development. We moved a big part of our level 1, half of the level 1 course online, and reduced the in-person course to 2 days. We moved part of level 3 online, Reach Educator course, And we also made real progress. We developed transferred the one-day race management seminar online, and also are just finishing up. I think we've run a couple of pilots for the club judge online. So, those are things that we've been in the pipeline. Our members and race officials out in the field have been asking for, and we were really pleased to get that done. That took a lot of work on the part of volunteers and staff working together. All of this stuff really was the result, as Corey shared, with some great collaboration and really generous contributions of time from our volunteers. We launched the Starboard Portal, which you all are experiencing right now. Betsy Allison and her team did a lot of work with the One Design community, put up a whole new website and a bunch of resources online for that, really engaging that community. We compiled Return to Water resources with the help, again, of a lot of our organizational members and volunteers that provided resources for clubs and community sailing programs as they worked around the restrictions that the COVID crisis had put on us. We really energized the Sailor Athlete Council, as Corey had mentioned. The DEI committee and task force has been very active. That was prompted by the issues and events that happened this spring, and has actually been very timely for us to work some of those areas into our programs. We've talked about race administration. We've put a lot of effort into that over the last several months. Charlie Arms and her task force has come up with some really powerful recommendations that we're going to be working into our plans for next year, which you'll hear a little bit more about later on. A lot of bylaw revisions to address the changing environment around us, bringing athletes more engaged in the organization. Bill Rue, who is on the board now, and we talked about, I introduced you to Jill a little bit earlier, really energizing and empowering our foundation. I introduced you to Heather. So really building up the team here. The reason we're going to be talking this afternoon is about our strategic refresh, which was a great opportunity to really focus our organization and making sure we're delivering on our mission. A big part of that is the Olympic strategy that's being developed at the moment with Project Pinnacle. Our youth area and Skill Up 2.0, which is applying the American development model in youth sports to learn to sail programs. That's being led by John Pierce and a group of his team and volunteers. We did manage to, Betsy and her team, along with Shannon Bush and a host of volunteers, were able to run the Championship of Champions at the Balboa Yacht Club in Newport Beach. And from everything we heard, people had a great time, and the club did a phenomenal job in ensuring the safety of all the participants. It's sort of I think a model for a lot of organizations to take a look at. 2021 will be a new rule book year. And so the rules committee, Rob Overton, Dick Rose, and their team working with the staff have put together the rule book. We just got the first print proof, and we've also developed a really cool mobile app that'll run on Apple as well as Android devices, and that'll be launched in the coming weeks. Ron White had retired from the offshore committee at the end of last year, and we were lucky enough to be able to recruit Matt Gallagher out of Chicago, a wonderful sailor there and very passionate about sort of the grassroots of offshore sailing, handicap sailing, and making some really nice progress in that area. Nathan Titcomb and his team sort of reinvigorated the Portsmouth Yardstick handicapping system. It's been in place and is, I think, very popular in many areas of the country. We were able to partner with the Royal Yachting Association and use some of their online tools to extend that and make that easier to use. Our Siebel program was up and running a first full year in all 5 regions. A lot of great activity and really good engagement with these community sailing centers, about 20 of them around the country. We've got 5 Siebel coaches out in the field. And I don't think this could have come at a better time, not only because of the ability to launch the Siebel program and get kids into these FIVAs and sort of higher performing boats, but just having boots on the ground and able to support these community sailing centers in a whole host of ways, I think was a real value to that community. And then we were able to continue to provide grants to our Reach programming. And that was a big help I think we did like 5 or 6 of those grants to some of these community programs around the country. So as you can see, a lot still happened here. We made a lot of progress, and I want to thank the staff. They just really came together. I mean, we were in the office on a Friday, and Monday, boom, we were all working from home. Mike Waters and our IT team did a phenomenal job of that shift. And then, every one of these areas, I think the volunteers, our committees and committee members have been instrumental in making this happen. So it's really, looking back on this year, while it's been tough, it's amazing to see what happens when everybody comes together. And I'm really happy about it and so thankful for everybody. And again, to our members, all of you out there listening this morning, really appreciate your support. It's been critical to keeping us going, and we thank you for that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Heather, who will give you sort of a snapshot of where we are financially and the progress we've made to sort of readjust and keep ourselves on a solid financial footing. Heather, off to you.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what coast you're on. I think the next page, Jack, is where I'll get started.
Oh, right.
So I just wanted to take a quick second just to say thank you for having me and to reiterate Jack's message to all the members, because it is truly a testament to all of you with the continued support we've seen in our ability to drive membership revenue, and it is so incredibly appreciated. With that said, I have been with this team for a whopping 5 months. And joining a team in June mid-pandemic can be a daunting task, but I think as Jack just did a really excellent overview, you can see the strengths of this team and how quick they were able to pivot amidst a really challenging dynamic within this business. We did have to make some hard decisions. And within the first 60 days that I joined the team, we were able to work together as a team with Jack and all the directors and take a really strong and deep look at all of our financials to try to understand what we needed to do for the second half of the year to allow us to be able to have a strong cash flow position and to be able to continue to deliver to all of the valued customers that we have and to keep our operations running smoothly. So what you see in front of you is not intended to be an eye chart. So if so, my sincere apologies, but I'm just going to take a quick moment to give you a sense of where we are October year to date for a very brief moment. And honestly, what I want you guys to walk away with is seeing how we think we're going to end the year, because I think that that's absolutely critical, especially in a year as tumultuous as this has been. Through October, the one number I'm going to bring your attention to is that we have a surplus of $270,000. If you add in our pledge payments, we're at a $993,000 net cash flow position. Last year at this time, our deficit was $222,000. So through all of the strong leadership, through the programs that we were able to put on, whether they were virtual or whether it was the various items that Jack kind of walked you through on the previous page, we were able to continue to drive revenue, to conservatively manage our costs and drive to a surplus from a year-to-date perspective. What I'll also tell you is if you look at the new estimate column, which is the third from the right, you will see that we are expecting to drive to a $462,000 net cash flow position. And the reason that's important is a couple of reasons, because we all know that we want to see a solid P&L or profit and loss statement. But if you don't have any cash, then it's all for naught. So you can see that we are intending to drive $460,000 to the bottom line, which is improved almost $400,000 from when we first did this revised estimate in June. We did that with the support of our members. We did that with the support of the contributions that people have brought in. We've done that with stronger publication sales. We've done it with continuing to stay true to our sponsorship commitments and do the best that we can in terms of some of the challenges that this has brought. But so again, thank you to that. The operating expenses have been conservatively managed, but as Jack also alluded to on the previous page, we have been able to bring that those salaries back up. And that has been really good. I think it's for, we've done it in a cautious manner, cautiously optimistic. And I think from a morale perspective, it's been really great around the office because candidly, this team has been incredibly impressive and resilient in a very difficult time. You can say thank you, but sometimes when the tough gets going, it really has been good to see the team back up to full salary. I'm going to talk for 2 more minutes because I know you guys are interested to move on. But what I'll say is from a cash perspective, one of the other things that has been really exciting and something that we found out this week is that our PPP loan, which was put together by Lauren Cotta, Justin Stirk, and Shannon Whitmarsh in terms of getting the application in, getting it approved, has been fully forgiven by the government. We found out that the SBA told us on Thursday. And so rather than having an $800,000 liability in our books at the end of the year, we're able to have an $800,000 grant. So we're really happy about that. And we're really happy about our cash flow projection, which you can see on the right side of the page. This is our operating cash. You can see that big infusion in April from the PPP loan. But what you can also see is that we've done a really good job managing our cash since then. We've been beating the cash flow projections that we had put in place, which were very conservative. And we're looking to end of the year close to about $1 million, which I think is a really solid position for us to start 2021. We're going to start 2021 and we're going to instate our strategic plan. We're going to do that. And I have no doubt that we will be working to rebuild is something that Jack said. And I know that we will rebuild. This team is resilient. People are in tune with their financials. They appreciate that it's a universal language that they need to understand. All the directors have been incredibly welcoming and letting me put a little bit of financial operating rhythm into our monthly discussions. And I think that we are going to be in a really great position as we start into the next fiscal year. And that's all I had. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Heather. I'm going to go back 1 slide if I can, just to talk real briefly about the events. And I will, for some reason, I'm not able to go backwards, but there's been some questions about, what's happening next year. So we postponed the NSPS until 2022. But what Stu and team and the volunteers on that committee have been working towards is basically developing a virtual conference, the NSPS, the National Sailing Programs series. And it's going to include a kickoff when the event normally happens, and then have ongoing programming throughout the year every couple of weeks. We're going to be doing some of the awards during this series. Some of the other awards, I believe the St. Petersburg Trophy and the Harmon Hawkins are going to be postponed next year. And we'll reevaluate and consider those in 2022 for both candidates in 2020 and 2021. We're also going to be running the National Coaching Symposium in December. That's going to be a virtual event that Stu is working with Luther and Leandro and others on, which should be a great opportunity to really broaden the audience for that event. And we're looking forward to that. So we're working to remain engaged with our members and our key constituents organizations and still deliver that I think really helpful resources and content and provide the opportunities for networking. But we're just going to be doing it virtually a little while longer. So with that, I will hand it back to, I guess, you, Martine. And
yes.
Thank you all very much for your time and again for all your support.
Just as a personal, I just want to thank the staff for all their efforts in putting that together. I think it's a great snapshot for our membership to see where we are. And as a board, we see it monthly, but I think it's good to share. So moving on to our next order of business, we do have the election of our new board members. So a brief moment in time here, just need to take any nominations from the floor. And I have Fred Hagedorn is monitoring our chat to see if there are any. Hearing none, I do want to let you guys know that we did meet the minimum criteria for the number of votes required by our bylaws in the election criteria. So I'm pleased to announce and congratulate Bill Rue, Russ Lucas, and Tony Ray to all starting their next terms with the U.S. Sailing Board of Directors. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your continued service, and we look forward to working with you the next couple of years. And then also I wanted to take an opportunity to represent, we did pass some new bylaws yesterday, and included in those bylaws was configuring our board to have increased sailor athlete representation, which as we all know is very important going forward. And as part of our mission to be an NGB is including those athletes as in having a voice. So as part of that, the USOPC has an athlete advisor council representative currently being served by Joe Morris. Joe, thank you very much for your continued service. I know your term ends in December, but we have elected the sailor athletes, have elected Maggie Shea and Judge Ryan to be our incoming athlete advisor council representatives to USOPC. It's the longest title known to anyone. And they will be joining the board of directors and serving the very important voice of our sailor athletes. And so we have made those adjustments in our bylaws. And so they will be starting with our board today. So thank you very much for joining our board. So thank you to these 5 individuals for their continued support of our sport and leading us to the next year and beyond. Corey, I believe you're up.
Yes, thank you, Martine. And I just want to take the opportunity to congratulate all the new board members and welcome Maggie and Judge, but also to thank our retiring board members, Bruce Burton and Dave Perry. I'll just say a few words of thanks. Bruce has served on this board for quite some time, both as president and chairman of our Olympic Sailing Committee. And Dave Perry has been a board member for the last 3 years. And we will miss both of them, their wisdom, their comments. But one of the things that goes on in this organization is that we really don't go away too far. And Dave Perry will still be with us as chairing the appeals committee at U.S. Sailing. And as we know, he's a great contributor to the racing rules. And so he will still be very much alongside us in his role as the chairman of the appeals committee. But we thank Dave for his service. And likewise, Bruce, we thank Bruce as well. And in the tradition of past presidents, Bruce remains on our nominating committee, helping us look for the next leaders of the sport. So again, thank you for Bruce for your continued service in that role as well. So with that, Martine, I don't believe we have any other business for our annual meeting.
No, that does conclude our annual meeting. So I'm going to move to adjourn, and we will adjourn now. Thank you very much. But we're going to call the meeting of our new board of directors, and that will include Judge and Maggie, and welcome to our new board. So as part of this, in compliance with bylaw 311-2B, we do have 2 orders of business to conduct at this point. Madam President, would you like to make a motion for vice president?
Yes, I would like to nominate Rich Jepson for a 1-year term as vice president.
I'll second that. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to call the motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, Rich, for serving as another year as Vice President. Our only other order of business, the board has had a chance to review, the committee chairs that were posted. As part of our bylaws compliance, we do need to approve our committee chairs. There are a few that still remain outstanding, and we'll take care of those at our December 7th meeting. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the committee chairs as presented.
Second.
Thank you very much, Charlie, for the second. Any comments or discussion? I want to thank, in the discussion, I just want to make note to thank all these volunteers for their service to our sport, that they really do a lot of the heavy lifting and the volunteer end, and we do recognize that. Thank you very much. I'd like to call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you very much again, volunteers. So in conclusion of our new board meeting order of business, I just want to remind everyone we will adjourn, but stay on the YouTube channel, Starboard Portal. We will be starting the town hall portion of this with some Q&A that has been prior submitted by members. And we will also be monitoring the chat and trying to answer questions as we go. Again, if you had a question in the chat box or in the chat this afternoon, we will be happy to follow up with you if we don't get to it. We do appreciate you spending your day with us, and just our board meetings are open. The conference calls are loaded on, the call-in information is loaded online, and our next one is December 7th. And if you have any questions as secretary, I'm happy to do my best to get answers to you. Hearing none, thank you very much for joining our new board meeting. We are going to adjourn now and get set up for our virtual town hall that starts at noon. So stay with us. Thank you.
That hits these three areas. So let us know in the chat where you are tuning in from. Good morning to those on the West Coast, and I guess good afternoon to those on the other coast. We're very excited you're here. And just a quick thank you. I know there's a lot of people who are tuning in who spread through a variety of our sport. So for the volunteers, those that do race committee, our yacht club members, I know this was a trying few months for our sport. And so from all of us, thank you for helping to move it forward. And we're excited to share what we've been doing on our end to make this better for everyone. So before we go in depth into the plan, I'd love to just introduce Corey Sertle, the president of US Sailing, who's gonna just give a quick intro.
Thank you, Brianna. And thank you, Brianna, for being on US Sailing's board and for moderating today's session. Brianna Provancha is an Olympian from our 2016 Team USA in Rio. So we really welcome her participation on our board over the last year and look forward to working with her the next 2 years. I just wanted to take a few moments to welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and looking forward to our virtual town hall and the opportunity to engage with our membership. The last 6 months has been really challenging for all of us as sailors. But as sailors, we are uniquely trained to adapt to constantly changing conditions. And I really think that's the spirit that all of us have been approaching the world. And certainly sailing is a good metaphor for how we've adapted over the last 6 months. I also want to say it's really been a privilege to serve our sport as the president of US Sailing and the chairman of US Sailing's board of directors. US Sailing's board spent some time during the last 6 months refocusing our strategic direction and considering how we are fulfilling the role and responsibilities of being the national governing body for sailing. Developing and encouraging participation in sailing is fundamental to our mission. Delivering racing is a core responsibility, providing a level playing field for the sport. We have a broad mandate. We serve member organizations who are introducing people young and old to sailing, racing sailors of all levels in all types of boats, and those striving to put sailing and Team USA on the podium at the Tokyo Olympics. I find being part of the Olympic movement to be inspiring, not just for our athletes who are focusing at the highest levels, but also for all of us who volunteer for the sport. Just like our athletes, we are all on the journey toward excellence with trying to be better at what we do. And it's in this spirit of striving for excellence that we're challenging our staff, team, our community of volunteers on committees, and our board to raise the bar. And today I welcome everyone and the chance to interact with all of you, our members, and to thank you for being a member. And I would like now to turn it over to our CEO, Jack Gearhart.
Thank you, Corey, and good afternoon and good morning, everybody. Again, thanks for joining us. We just gave a brief overview of all the things that we've been involved with this year and sort of a look back and really looking forward to this town hall to share with everybody sort of the look forward. As Corey said, very, very challenging, disruptive year, but there's also been a lot of good things that have come from it. We've had an opportunity to really improve, I think, a lot of the things that we do. And as Corey shared and why we're here this afternoon is, what are we doing going forward? This strategic review actually began before the COVID pandemic hit. We were actually meeting in Bristol at the headquarters on the 12th and 13th of March. And on the Wednesday decided to say, well, we got to move this virtually. But we soldiered on. We had a great group of volunteers, of athletes, board leadership and staff that were really committed and passionate to this. Let's take a look at our strategy going forward. Now, we had created a basic plan back in 2018, and this was an opportunity for us to sort of peel back the layers of the onion and really look at it against the backdrop of where we needed to go. There's been a lot of change in the sporting community around safe sport. Federal legislation has come out. There's now certification requirements for us as an NGB. And as Corey said, we started to really look at what our role as an NGB in executing and carrying out our mission. And then it began as Corey shared a little earlier, how do we do our jobs better? How do we support the sport better? How do we have that sort of journey to excellence that our athletes are on, that organizations around the country are doing? And I've been in this role for 10 years now, almost 11, and with the incredible leadership of the boards that I've worked with and with the staff team, I think we've made a lot of progress. But like everything, we got to keep pushing. And this strategic reset has given us an opportunity to do that. It's like, what do we need to improve? What do we need to refine and tweak so we can be more relevant and more effective? What are the key things that we need to prioritize? When I first took this job, I sat next to a colleague in the ski and snowboard, the CEO of Ski and Snowboard, which has been very successful. And I said, I'm new here. What would you recommend to me as just starting out? And he said 3 words: focus, focus, focus. And we do have a broad sort of portfolio and remit of supporting a sport that has so many different tentacles and so many different activities. But we can't be everything to everybody. But we do have some core areas that we are responsible for. And our role in this strategic reset is to do those better. So we're going to be talking about Olympic and high performance success. We're going to be talking about member experience and value, really how we're connecting with this broad spectrum of members, from individuals to organizations, and how we serve them better. And then from an organizational effectiveness perspective, how do we do our job better? How do we make sure that we're using data, we're making good decisions, we're using our resources effectively? And I got to say, I'm really excited about the path forward. I think coming through this crisis, we've learned to operate better, work better together, and get aligned. I think one of the things that's coming out of this is some real alignment in the sailing community. We're realizing that we need to work better together. And that's really shown through in a lot of the networking and sort of online engagement that's happened. And then as programs got up and running again, they work together and learn from one another. And I think that's going to continue. One final point I want to make, we've received a couple of comments about this, is people look at the strategic priorities. They say, well, what are you doing about education and support for community sailing programs and access and safety? And it's, those are core fundamental tenets of what we do. We're an education organization. We train race officials, we train instructors and coaches, we provide safety at sea training. Those are going to remain. We want to do them better. The other things about access and supporting sailing organizations. We look at sailing organizations as one of our primary sort of members and customers, and delivering them the services and programs that they need. So that stuff is not going away. It's actually integral and integrated into all of these priorities that we're going to be talking about. So thank you again for joining us this afternoon or morning if you're on the West Coast. Please ask questions, and really want to thank you all for your support, for being a member of U.S. Sailing. You've been instrumental in helping us navigate the challenges that we've been dealing with over the last 7 months, and we're looking forward to working with you going forward. So thank you. Back to you, Bree.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Jack. Focus, focus, focus. I love it. I feel like I should put that in a Post-it or somewhere over my bed when I wake up in the morning. Intentionality is so important. And so I'm excited about this conversation. I'm excited to introduce the panelists and really dive deeper into the 3 areas that Jack mentioned. Just to repeat those, it will be Olympic and high performance success, member experiences and values, and organizational effectiveness. So without further ado, we can would love to kind of have all the panelists introduce themselves. And I'll just go, who's on my screen. I know it might not look the same as what's on your screen for those who's viewing, so I apologize about that. But Rich Jepson, who's the VP of US Sailing, maybe you could just share a little about who you are, where you're from, and some fun fact.
Thank you, Bree. Welcome, everyone. I'm a 25-year volunteer for U.S. Sailing. I come from the adult sail training and public access world, ran a commercial school for 34 years here on San Francisco Bay. I live in Alameda, California with my wife and 4 cats. Yes, 4. And I am a one design racer, so mainly J boats, 24, J70, J111, and have actually did the Chicago Mac with Dave Irish as the skipper way back when. So that was particularly painful to hear that he's so ill. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. So next up, Henry Brower, who is on our board and an avid racer.
Well, Bree, excuse me. Thanks for the introduction. As Bree mentioned, I'm from Marblehead, Massachusetts. I just finished my first year on the U.S. Sailing Board, and it's been a challenging and exciting year. I currently serve as the Commodore of the Eastern Yacht Club in Marblehead. I serve as the chair of the race committee at the Northeast Harbor Fleet in Northeast Harbor, Maine, and I'm the former president of the International J70 class. So I've spent most of my sailing life as an avid one design sailor, but I've also delved into some offshore sailing now and again. Rich mentioned Dave Irish, and I had the pleasure of being a fellow owner in the J111 class when we started that class, and took the boat out to Chicago and raced in the Chicago Mac against Dave. That was, to be with a legend like that was great. And my brother-in-law and I just purchased a Club Swan 42 that we're sailing with our family, and enjoyed a great summer up in Maine, where we often sailed with 9 of our fellow family members on our boat. So that was the highlight, not only of the summer, but of a lot of my sailing, to sail with all my family. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. So Charlie Arms, who is another board member here with us today, and a big advocate and, leader in our race committee work. So Charlie.
Thanks, Bree. My name's Charlie Arms. I'm from California, and I currently live in Annapolis, Maryland. I got involved with U.S. Sailing in the training section as an instructor trainer and keelboat and powerboat and small boat, and then was match racing myself and decided to get into umpiring. So I'm currently an international umpire and a national judge, and was asked to lead a task force to review the race admin division and bring forth recommendations to improve that portion of our organization. So that's what I've mostly been working on the last 6 months.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlie. We're very lucky to have you on our board as Henry and with Rich. So we have 3 others to introduce. Meredith Brody, who is the director of our Olympic program. Go ahead.
Hey, Bree. Thanks for having me today. So I'm Meredith. I'm based out of Hollywood, Florida. I've been working with U.S. Sailing for the past 8 years and joined just before the London Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2012. I learned to windsurf at the age of about 5. And I come from a community sailing background from the U.S. Sailing Center, Martin County, when it first was a trailer on Indian River Lagoon. But Olympics runs deep in my soul, and I sold t-shirts at the Downtown Festival in 1996 for athletes going to the Atlanta Games. So I love the games, I love the athletes, and I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Meredith. John Pierce, who is our youth director. I'm sure you guys have heard him speak. He's on a number of Starboard portals, but John, I'll let you add more color.
Thanks, Bree. Yeah, I'm John Pierce. I've been working at U.S. Sailing for a little over 4 years now, heavily focused on youth sailing, retention of youth sailors, lifelong sailing, and helping sailors reach their peak abilities. Prior to being at U.S. Sailing, my previous career was as a sailing coach, working at a number of universities and youth sailing organizations. And prior to that, I was a U.S. Sailing team member in the laser class.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And last but not least, Lauren Cotta, who is all things membership. So really excited to have you today, given all the value that we want to bring to our members. So
definitely. Hi, I'm Lauren Cotta. I'm the Director of Operations, definitely with a focus on membership. I think Jack and I wake up every morning thinking about you all as members. So we really appreciate your time today and joining us for this town hall. I'm from Newport, Rhode Island. I learned how to sail at Community Boating Center in Providence, and I'm an active One Design sailor, also on a SON 42. So appreciate your experience too, Henry, and looking forward to being here today.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. So as we kind of go deeper into these 3 focus areas or pillars, as we can call them, we want to make sure that we're really hitting on what you guys who are following and watching, what you care about. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll touch on them as soon as we can. We'll also have some open Q&A at the end. So please keep the questions and comments coming. This session is for you. And so we're excited to just have this be a really engaging hour. So for the first pillar of focus, which is Olympic and high performance success, this is one that is very near and dear to my heart as an Olympian in sailing. It's great that the organization has placed a high priority on wanting to improve the program. And so something that I know is top of mind, has been top of mind for me and is top of mind for our members, is how we can improve our Olympic program and success as a country at international events. And so this question is for Meredith as our Olympic director. What are we doing this year and beyond to build our athlete pipeline and really retain the athletes that come through our system?
Thanks, Bree. So as part of our strategic refresh and deeply embedded into what we want to do and we'll put more focus into is pipeline development and athlete retention. So specific to pipeline development, we want to scale up ODP, the Olympic Development Program, and create more pathways because we truly need to cultivate a strong pipeline of athletic talent. We're putting more focus on a domestic platform and increasing the number of Olympic racing and training opportunities stateside. With that, we're going to increase the number of active campaigners and raise the level of all of our athletes. For athlete retention, we want to shift how we're spending resources, how it's allocated to athletes based on their performance. We truly have to create a financial structure and pathway that enables our athletes to train and compete full-time and long-term. So with our sport, it takes long-term commitment to be at the very top. And we need to have the finances to support a system to do that.
I mean, it feels to me like a really big step forward for U.S. Sailing. And you have been involved with the team you mentioned before London Games. So Tokyo will be your third Olympics. So 8 years that you've been with the team. That's incredible. What excites, I'm just curious, like what excites you most about the direction we are heading and how we're supporting our Olympic program?
We've had incredible support with the board and all the athletes this quad, and it's only going to continue to increase as we reinvigorate the Sailing Athlete Council. And then the fact that just half an hour ago we confirmed Maggie Shea and Judge Ryan onto our board as our athlete reps to the USOPC, but also now on the board is huge. But what I'm also really excited about is the transparency and accountability that'll come from all these changes. When the athletes have a clear understanding about what they can expect from U.S. Sailing, that transparency increases the accountability, which increases the trust that the athletes have in the program. So as we continue to raise more funds for the program, we look forward to shouldering that big financial burden that the athletes currently carry that distracts them from their performance on the water. So as we raise more money, they're just going to do better.
It's so great, and it's important that I think it's important that we're taking those steps. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. And as we kind of keep talking about the Olympics, some of you might be aware that our sport moved to gender parity for athletes for the Olympics in Tokyo 2020, which will extend through Paris 2024 and beyond. And what that means is that basically there's going to be the same number of female athletes and male athletes representing sailing, per country, which is incredible. And this is just another wonderful thing that our sport has done. And so as we think about gender parity, it actually has moved also into the race committee management. And so US Sailing recognizes the need for more women involvement just across all areas. And so this question is for Charlie. How does this strategic plan better address and support the need for more women in race management?
Thanks, Bree. So we have looked at the number of women that are currently race officials, and it's between 20 and 27%, so nowhere near 50. So one of the ideas that came up was having a women teaching women. So there were a couple of the club race manager or the basic one-day race management courses that will be taught by women that are for only women. And those sold out immediately, and there's a wait list. So obviously we have a market, and so that's one way. There was also talk of mentoring, and we suggested a mentoring program. And you don't necessarily have to have a woman mentoring a woman, but we want to make sure that the up and coming women in the core are getting the mentoring they need to learn more, to get events, to be able to go up to the next level of certification, and to identify women sailors who may be getting towards the end of their competitive time, or like me, I didn't match race as much, but I was team race umpiring. So so someone who's just is interested in that other aspect of the sport and giving back. So we're actively going to be recruiting women to take the certification courses, whether they're all women or not, and also to take the next level and get certified. So that's what's in the works for that.
Thanks, Charlie. Women coaching women. I love it. We're so lucky to have you as a leader in our sport, helping to lead this along. I'm just curious, if you are a female, member, how can you learn about our programs and how can they really get involved? Charlie, do you have thoughts?
Sure. It's interesting because we were just talking amongst ourselves about our race committee is almost half women, and the reason we're not seeing that reflected is there's a lot of people in the race committee besides the PRO. Even though the PRO might be a man, there's a lot of opportunities on the mark set boats and on the signal boats for people to learn about race management and participating. So we haven't done that research on the demographic of how many women are on race committees, not necessarily PROs. So there's definitely opportunities for people to get involved. Just go down to your yacht club, or even community sailing folks are running races. So just volunteer to get in to help running races. And then, excuse me, and then look for opportunities for the certification courses. Even during COVID, we pivoted to online courses for race management and for judges. So there's lots of opportunity for training at the US Sailing, and going on the website is where you find them all.
Awesome. That's great. And maybe I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. I don't know. This has nothing to do with any of the male PROs, but some of the best races I have had have been with female PROs. So I'm looking forward to building that with our sport. And so Charlie, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. And so as we move into the next pillar of membership, we've talked about the importance of gender parity in sport, and I'm excited to get Rich's perspective as we think about how DE&I extends through our membership efforts. And so, Rich, the question is, as we're thinking about growing our sport, what are some things that US Sailing is doing or will plan to do to be a more open and inclusive sport?
Thanks, Bree. First of all, I'm really happy that we got the support and guidance from the USOPC to help send the message to the entire leadership of sailing, in addition to US Sailing, the industry and the local sailing organization community, that sailing will be stronger if it's more equitable and inclusive. And our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is hard at work in two areas. The first is building and developing our muscles within our organization to do this job on a sustainable basis. And that requires strategy, it requires rubrics, it requires standards, it requires education and communication. And the other is to do our best to reach out now and touch the community and do what we can with what we have. I think Siebel Sailors is the shining example of what true commitment to this can do. It's exploding onto the scene. It's focused on youth and building them into lifelong racing sailors, diverse ethnicities, diverse economic status, and we're also reaching out to public access and private organizations to collaborate with them on improvements in diversity. Several initiatives with Hudson River Community Sailing, with Treasure Island Sailing Center, Downtown Sailing Center in Maryland, to help them, help guide them, but also help promote their efforts and use them as exemplars for how we make the sport better represent the demography of the US. I do want to add, if it's okay, regarding gender. I know you've already been talking about it, but our gender parity and membership in sailing is probably going to follow gender parity in leadership here at the organization, as women sailors see women leaders in sailing. And I think also with more women leaders, we enable the concept of gender parity to get more oxygen in planning and debate. And over the years, the number of women in leadership at U.S. Sailing's continued to rise. During my 25 years, it was very male back in 1995, but incredibly diverse now. I know we're not at gender parity in many parts of the sport, but as an example, at headquarters in Bristol, we sport female CFO, a female Chief Development Officer, CDO, Operations Director, Olympic Director, Adult Department Director, as well as leaders in Reach, Siebel Sailors, and events. So a ton of women also serve as committee chairs, not the least of which is our own DEI committee under the leadership of Deborah Abrams-Wright. We are fleshing out our strategic plan that will harmonize with U.S. Sailing's overall strategic plan, and we have to move from just avoiding conscious discrimination to an initiative that recognizes that we have to recruit or lure or create comfortable on-ramps to convince skeptical gender and skeptical ethnicity that there's a place for them. And I realize it'll take decades for our demographic to represent America's demographic, but that's our goal. Our goal is for sailing to look just like America.
This is such an important topic, I personally think, in our sport. And so, Rich, thank you for all of your efforts to keep pushing this better. And we did get a question from the chat, so I'd like to just ask, and maybe Rich, and if anybody else wants to jump in. The question is, how will U.S. Sailing work to promote water access? And the idea is that the cost of entry is really high for a large percentage of people. And so what efforts can be focused on building local community sailing centers?
Yes, and therein lies the answer. The 21st century model for sailing, in terms of growing it, is to keep what we have of the old model, which is one person, one boat sort of model that has worked for well over 100 years in the world of yachting. That has to stay, but in order for the sport to grow, we have to have a shared use model. And what's great about the shared use model, not only is it more convenient, not only is it less expensive, but it is the easiest way to promote diversity. So public access programs around the country have been, they are the part of the sport that is growing and growing in double digits. The rest of the sport is a bit stagnant or even slowly declining, but public access sailing is continuing to grow. And many private clubs are now considering going private public simply because they see the value of it, not only in the health of their programs, but also in terms of their relationship with the surrounding communities. So I have, being a public access owner for 34 years, I have a soft spot in my heart for that. But the base of the pyramid is insufficiently large for us to really sustainably compete at the Olympic level. And this part of it is the area where I can contribute. Make the base larger, get more people involved. We'll uncover more people of talent and who have the passion and the means to spend 8 years trying to represent the U.S. And I think our 2028 goal, and some may say it's too aggressive and some may say it's not aggressive enough, is we want to see a person of color on the podium in Long Beach.
Love it. And Jack, I saw you unmute. So do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll just talk a little tactically about what we do that might not be totally visible all the time. I mean, Rich mentioned the Siebel program as an access point that's providing really good coaches and mentors and great equipment to community programs for youth to sort of take that next step. The Reach program has done a great job in bringing a lot of kids in, and from an education perspective, but actually getting them out on the water and getting them excited about sailing. We also do a lot of work with organizations that are working to get up and running. Stu Gilfillan knows a lot about community sailing programs. JP, from a youth standpoint, has an incredible amount of experience. So we've got staff that are, basically providing consulting support to organizations that are looking to get up and running. I mean, Stu's been down to Sarasota to talk with groups down there about, how to launch a community sailing program. And we sort of help connect dots from people that want to launch something to, folks that have already gone through that, to shorten the learning curve, give them some documentation. There's tools that we have. So we sort of have these programs that we're working with community sailing programs on to encourage access. And then we have this sort of under the hood work that we do with organizations that are looking to get up and running. So if people have questions, have ideas that they want to start something, those are the kind of conversations we love. And we're happy to, when we can, get back on a plane and go down and help out and, rally community support for it. We write letters. We work with local governments to help bring the experts together that can deal with, challenges they might have from a development standpoint. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we're doing sort of tactically hands-on.
And Bree, if I can just chime in for 1 second, one more piece of that is the Community Sailing Committee is a really fantastic network of experts in this area. And we, as staff, we connect with the committee. And so anyone who's interested in growing a community sailing program, starting from scratch or enhancing what you have, please reach out and we'll connect you with people who can really help.
Thanks, John and Jack and Rich. I think that's a wonderful question and something that, as an organization, we need to constantly be thinking about. And so I know in the interest of time, we want to make sure to get to more of your questions, but as membership values are really important, because if we're not delivering value to our members, that's, it's such something that we continually need to focus on. And so I want to spend a little bit more time here, and then we'll move on to organizational effectiveness. So as this isn't an easy time for our country. I think Corey mentioned it, Jack mentioned it, we've all kind of touched on it. And we're constantly thinking about how we can bring the maximum amount of value for all of you who join our organization and who are our members. So this question's for Lauren. How are you seeing membership evolve to keep pace with the changing environment, to really meet member and sailor needs?
Thank you, Brianna. Yes, this has definitely been a difficult year. I think it's been a moment for us at US Sailing and our members to take time to reflect on how we can serve sailors. If we're providing value and the best experiences, people will continue to renew their memberships, encourage their friends to join, and create the best experience possible for our sailing community. And that's what we're here to do, is increase participation and excellence in sailing. And so in the spring, as a priority, we moved many of our courses online. And I think that's been a moment where maybe travel has been a barrier to participation in the past. And so getting more people to take our courses and continue their education and work towards their certifications is something that your membership dollars help to encourage that participation. And if we increase the level of certified race officials, for instance, and the number of women who are continuing down that path and the mentoring, that's where we'll all be more successful on the race course or in our community sailing experiences. We've also touched on networking. Networking is now on Facebook. It's here in the Starboard portal. The Starboard portal is brand new, and it's something we look to continue not only this year, but also next year into virtual events. And one major tenet to the member engagement strategy is surveying and collecting data from our members. The better that we know each other and how we can help you, and if you're reaching out to us and we're learning about the type of sailing that you're interested in doing or participating in, that's going to help us create the programs and products to help serve the community. So Nancy Mazzulli and Bessie Ellison, great example this past year, creating One Design Central to help create a one-stop shop for serving sailors' needs in the One Design space. John Pierce, if you haven't heard of Scale Up from him, that's another way serving the organized aspect of learning how to sail through a new mobile app. So we're really excited to take what could be seen as a year of difficulty and turn it into opportunities to engage with the sailing community.
Thanks, Lauren. And you talked a little bit about all the programs we offer and how we continue to drive value for our members. So this is a really good segue into how we can deliver that in an effective way for our members. And so this next question is for John. And one of the things, and you can touch on this a little bit more, one of the exciting things we do as an organization is offer this multitude of programs, for adult, offshore, youth, all the things, Lauren, you just mentioned. And so, John, what are ways that you and your team are approaching kind of the effectiveness of these programs and, how we offer those to our members?
Yeah, thanks, Bree. The strategic plan as a whole, really like the first strategy really centers around our role as a national governing body for the sport of sailing. The second strategy really centers around our role as the member organization for sailing. And then the third strategy here of organizational effectiveness really focuses on what we need to do to deliver on those other two roles by being a very efficient, well-run, well-resourced organization. So we just kind of took a look inward in this area and focused on, growing resources through funding, programming, fundraising, focusing on our committee and volunteer structure where we have so much talent and such a great resource that helps our organization be better. And so focusing on that area and supporting that area more. Staff development, we do have a great staff, I think, and making sure that we are taking full advantage of that and using the human resources as well as we can. And then a more data-driven approach, where there is a lot of knowledge in our organization, but we want to know that, confirm it through data, I would say, and do that both on the program level and then also look outside to the sport as a whole and deliver more information to everyone in the sport about participation trends and what is going on year to year within the sport. So that's the broad overview of this sort of organizational effectiveness area. It certainly connects with me and a lot of the staff members who work on our programs, our educational programs, our racing and clinic and regatta programs, the ways that we support member organizations with programs and tools. And so, in the long run, what we're looking to do is deliver those products and programs that help everyone run the sport. And, that a huge part of that is education, instructor certifications, student curriculums, and, best practices. And so anyone who's been to the National Sailing Program Symposium or the Sailing Leadership Forum knows how much knowledge is exchanged within the community. And so we want to keep delivering that and, make the best possible use of our resources.
That's awesome, John. Thanks so much. So Henry, you're quite involved at the board level around this pillar of organizational effectiveness. What can our members expect to see this year around this renewed focus, and how might some of these new focus areas, let's call them, impact them?
Well, we've all heard about the exciting programs that are underway in the refresh of the strategic plan. And we've got a fairly aggressive 4-year program in front of us. So how are we going to deliver all of that to the members? And part of that is going out and trying to raise some money to support the various programs and initiatives that we've set. That's the board's job. We help set the policy, and then we've got to figure out how to fund those new initiatives. So to that end, in the last year, the board set out to reestablish the U.S. Sailing Foundation, and Bill Rue joined as the chairman a year ago, and he's putting a great team in place. And there's going to be a very good coordination between the foundation board and the U.S. Sailing Board to make sure that we've got the right tools in place to do that. And one of the real keys is the initiative the board took on with a national search to find and hire a new chief development officer, Jill Nosech, who started, I think, 2 weeks ago. Jack mentioned her earlier. She's a true professional, a lot of years of experience in many different areas of development and how you service members and grow your base of support. So Jill, I think, is going to be a fantastic boost to the entire organization, a great member of the staff, and to help the board and the foundation to really go forward and figure out how to begin to create a base to fund all these new initiatives. And I think that's going to be a benefit to the members, because we're going to try to find out exactly who are our members. Are they one design sailors? Are they offshore sailors? Are they Wednesday night beer can sailors? Are they new adult sailing members? And how do we service them and enhance their experience? And even more importantly, how do we grow our membership base? And so if you're a Flying Scot sailor and you're the skipper and you're a member of U.S. Sailing and your two crew aren't, how do we work with you as the skipper to attract those two other men and women that are sailing with you every weekend or every Wednesday night to be members of U.S. Sailing? What would motivate them to do that? So too, it's the same as if you're with Lauren on a Wednesday night on that SC 42 or Club Swan 42, and you've got 8 other friends on the rail. Well, Lauren's a member, and maybe the owner's a member, but how about the other 7 folks? Why aren't they members? And we need to find that out, because only by expanding our membership will we be able to afford all these new initiatives. And it comes down, for example, what Charlie's group has done in the last several months, and with race management, there are she's got 20 plus recommendations. Well, we're gonna have to figure out how to fund those, and the board's making that a priority. And that might be building certain staff to support race management and other programs. And what's been discussed this morning, which is gender parity and making sure that there are women in all parts of the sport. So across the board, this is the board's committed to all of these, but at the end of the day, we do have to try to figure out how to bring in some more money to make that happen. And that's the board's job, is to stay focused on those things and to understand how to be effective in meeting those new goals.
Thanks, Henry. So, we'd love to keep the conversation going with some questions from you guys. So a couple have come in. So the first question we can ask, and this one I'm gonna push to Rich, is how are non-competition areas within sailing being supported by this new strategic direction?
Good question. I'll start by saying one thing that we've learned over the past several years as an organization that was already pretty well known by the sailing school community is that there's a small percentage of new sailors who immediately fall in love with competitive sailing. And then there's a second group, or a second wave, to use a tragic 2020 term, who learn to sail, have fun just sailing, then catch fire in a competitive environment. I fall myself into that category. I didn't start sailing competitively until 1985. So even in the competitive part of our sport, we're taking youth and adults and building or creating rubrics to help our local organizations create a love for sailing, for pure sailing, what we call open sailing. Get them a relationship with the sport, with the community, make them feel like they belong, make them feel like they look forward to everything from a day sail to, servicing the winches, and then give them the opportunity to compete and see, which demographic they are. Are they the catch fire immediately? Are they catch fire later? Or are they, you know what, I got enough competition in my life. I don't need competition in sailing. I just want to sail to the local island for the weekend. So that's something that we're doing across the board. In the keelboat space, which is the one I'm most familiar with, it's almost 100%, maybe 90% focused on open sailing, teaching people how to enjoy the sport safely, give them many different opportunities. Certainly competitive opportunities are there, but the vast majority of it is aimed at cruising, from weekend cruising to long distance coastal cruising to sailing around the world. Every single keelboat program in the country that I know of can boast of at least one graduate who's sailed around the world. And so a lot of continuing effort goes into making sure that we're staying up with the times, keeping our finger on the pulse of what those non-competitive open sailors want, and to make sure that the products and services match up. I think the final thing is that the vast majority of public access, nonprofit community sailing programs are in the same boat, teaching kids and adults how to sail, providing them with opportunities, and keeping it as unstructured as possible so people can find their own way and not have it be one size fits all. So a lot of market segmentation goes into the work at public access, either commercial or private. And U.S. Sailing is supporting that both with the strategic plan and with tactical stuff from Bristol staff.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. I love what you said about finding your own way. I think that's so important. I started as a recreational sailor. My dad windsurfed. And so I think that one is something that I think is important. So we're getting some really great questions from you guys watching. Thank you. If we don't get to all of them in the interest of time, we will find a way to get back to you. So please don't not post questions because you think we're coming up to time. So this question, I think, is something that I think about all the time as someone who loves to compete in the sport and someone who, wants to understand the sport a little bit better. Is everybody understands or seems to understand football and skiing without ever really playing them? Why does that not happen with sailing? And that it is such a really important and interesting question. So I'm excited to get some perspective on that. And I'm going to throw this one to John as our, youth education coaching person. I feel like you have some thoughts on this.
Sure. Yeah, I think we've all think about this all the time, and there's probably a lot of ways to approach it. But I would say, first off, that, our focus as an organization is getting people on the water. And I think that by going sailing, you gain an appreciation for what sailing is all about. And I think that's an aha moment that, we want to facilitate, certainly our member organizations. That's what we want to support them in their work, whether they're offering public access sailing or youth sailing camps that are, open to new sailors, using something like the REACH program, which can develop a partnership with local schools to get kids, learning sailing through their science classes, which is an amazing opportunity to get new people involved. So I think participation is really the thing that will raise awareness the most directly. But the other part I would say is that, and this connects to our strategic plan really, is that the LA 2028 Olympics are top of mind right now. And that's an opportunity for all Olympic sports to be extremely visible in the marketplace starting really in 2024, I think. And I know there will be a youth movement behind that for youth participation across all Olympic sports. And so, having our Olympic program be in the best possible position to take advantage of that, and then have our, organization as a whole, sort of as a part of that portfolio, I think could have a huge impact. So, and that would come around to potentially, broadcast on television, the medal ceremony, the heroes of all that stuff. And so that's super exciting. We have one cool project that Meredith Brody could expand upon is the increasing sort of sailing series, where there'll be a bunch of domestic Olympic class regatta events that will be drawing in, international talent many times a year. So I think the visibility may well go up if we can fully take advantage of that.
Awesome. And, I know, Meredith, you go to so many regattas supporting the team. You watch so many races and you're just in the weeds of this all the time. I'd love to get your perspective on this. And I know you're doing some work on, what John just touched on with the Olympic classes regatta. So I'd love to get your perspective on this too.
Yeah, thanks. John hit it spot on, because the domestic platform that we're trying to build, it's really focused on not just training opportunities, but racing opportunities. So historically, the U.S. has only consecutively annually held the one OCR, Olympic Class Regatta, World Cup Series, Miami, in Miami every winter. But starting in 2021, we're going to do a 6-event series, 3 in Florida in the winter. We'll have Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Clearwater, and then 3 on the West Coast in the summer, San Francisco, Long Beach, and San Diego. And with us developing that as the U.S. Open Sailing Series, we are looking at broadcast opportunities. Our CMO has a broadcast background, and we're looking forward to bringing the sport more digitally and to people's television sets. With our sport, it's so incredible to the technology these days. Drone footage not only helps us from a performance standpoint, but it's also incredibly cool to watch. At the Olympics and at certain World Cup events, we have cameras on the boats, so you see the in cockpit vantage point. And then we have cameras set up on race committee boats as well. So between the aerial view, the in the boat view, and the on the course view, plus overlaid with the tracking, because a lot of the boats at that high level have the tracking as well. So the broadcast opportunities are incredible, and we're going to be able to teach people all over the world, and very specifically here stateside, more and more about Olympic class racing and sailing in general.
Awesome. Thank you, Meredith. And we just got another really awesome question in about related to One Design. So also going to throw this one to John. The question is, does U.S. Sailing maintain a database of One Design racing requirements and boat characteristics to help other organizations pick a class?
Yeah, and I was excited to see that, and a couple of follow-up questions about the One Design symposiums that have happened in the past. And so there's a couple different things to point out here. One is that about a year ago, Betsy Allison, who's our adult programs director, conducted a sort of broad survey of One Design sailors and identified some key things that people were asking for in terms of resources and engagement. And they went ahead and formed a bunch of subcommittees, did a bunch of great work, and starting to see some of the outcome of that now. So the one of the really cool things is the One Design Central page on the US Sailing website, which has a growing fleet directory of different fleets of different One Design classes around the country, so you can find fleets near you. It has information about individual One Design classes and what characteristics and kind of sailor profiles they are the best match for. And all the One Design sailors out there who are interested in getting more involved should certainly reach out to Betsy, because there's a growing sort of One Design committee that's being initiated and growing, has some great leadership. And we're going to really put a lot of emphasis on figuring out what more US Sailing can do for the One Design community, as well as, other audiences out there. So I think it's a great time. I see Betsy in the chat, so you can just chat her directly on YouTube and she can answer your questions.
Perfect. Hi, Betsy. Awesome. So I know we are very close to 1 o'clock here. And I know Corey has some final words to say, but in the spirit of wanting to just add a little bit more to this, I just love to hear a couple thoughts from a few of you, maybe Lauren, Charlie, and Henry. As you think about these changes that we've made with the strategic plan, like what inspires you most about what this next year will bring for our members? Lauren, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I think I'm just really inspired to, as JP said, looking back on the last year and Betsy and Nancy engaging with that One Design audience, the more that we're communicating with each other and serving our members and growing our membership, as Henry alluded to, I think the more that we'll all be successful and have a stronger representation, on a panel like this in our sport across all areas. So DE&I is included in that. So that maybe, Rich, to your point, in the next 25 years, maybe when I'm a viewer on a panel like this, it looks different than it even does today. So I'm really encouraged to be surrounded by strong women, strong leaders, men, everyone across our country, our U.S. Sailing, to just see where we're going and learn and serve our members.
Awesome. Charlie, what inspires you about this next year?
So I've just been on the board a couple of years, and I'm really excited that the organization is embracing data-driven decision-making. The board turns over, and so we get a lot of sort of focus and direction and maybe not as much consistency. So I think it's great that the organization has some really new good talent, and that our current talent is willing to investigate and talk to the members and get the members' input about where we should be going. So that's exciting for me.
Awesome, great, thanks. And Henry, to finish us off, what about you?
Well, for me, this year was really exciting to see how U.S. Sailing, the staff and the board and a lot of our members met the challenge of COVID, because it really impacted our sport. And we had to pivot. And when I said we, everybody in the sport had to figure out how you're going to get back out on the water. How do you get racing? How do you teach the kids how to sail? So it was really interesting to see all of that as everybody used their imagination, ingenuity to approach each jurisdiction. Each state had a different set of guidelines and rules that you had to sort of bend to and figure out how to get people back on. And I thought that it was really, at least I found it exciting to see how we responded to that and how we were sharing ideas. And we had Corey asked a bunch of us to put together a panel in May with yacht club leaders. And it was great to get back to the sort of the core of a lot of what we do at USA and the yacht clubs and share those ideas. And there were 700 people on that panel or listening on that YouTube presentation. And I think a lot of people got a lot out of it. And there were friendships that were remade and sharing how you approach the racing. And gee, we discovered that you don't need, 5 mark boats to go sit a race course, that you could do it with a couple in a small boat and do it with horns. Well, gee, we were doing that 40 years ago. So, it got back to the grassroots of sailing and just getting people on the water again and enjoying it. And the key, though, was taking a step back and enjoying our local sailing and our families. And I've been involved in a world level campaign for the last 8 years. And I'll tell you, it was really exciting for me to really focus on family, get the family out in the boat and just sail with just friends locally and not be involved in that international mayhem that you get involved with. So I thought it was a chance for us to refocus on local sailing, regional sailing, and family sailing, which is, at the end of the day, that's the core of our sport.
Thanks, Henry. And we did have a few more questions come in, so we're going to take one more, just in the spirit of maximizing the value for those who are watching. And this one is, can we give panelists? This one I'm going to send over to Meredith, and then maybe John, you can talk about the youth part. Is what are some plans that we have upcoming for high performance training for our youth sailors?
So from In general, the way the pipeline works, Olympics at the very top with ODP being right beneath it, and then youth sailing is an incredibly strong base. And U.S. Sailing has a long history with supporting youth sailors, but JP is definitely the expert when it comes to the youth sailors, where as I work more with the ODP and the Olympic level. So I'm actually going to pass it directly to JP.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Meredith. Yeah, the plans for next year are fluid, I would say, given the state of the world. But certainly our intent is to focus on sort of the skill building and the rebuilding of the youth racing scene through increase in clinics at kind of multiple levels. So we're planning a sort of grassroots clinic series, possibly some clinics for higher level sort of national sailors. And then it does connect through to what, Meredith and the Olympic department do with the growing Olympic classes regatta series, the opportunity for youth sailors to dip their toe in the water of the Olympic level and sail those Olympic class boats without having to go overseas. Really, they can go to Florida in the winter, go to California in the summer, bring your boat and, go race against really excellent talent. And we're already seeing that really working. I think there's some really cool things happening right now in the 29er and 49er classes, for example, where youth sailors are sailing both and kind of getting a taste of that Olympic level without having to launch a full-fledged campaign quite yet. And that's a big change from, past quads where the international racing was happening in Europe. And that was a huge expense and kind of undertaking, hard to try before you buy. So I think that's going to be a massive opportunity over the next 8 years for the top level youth sailors. And then hopefully that will also strengthen the middle and the kind of grassroots levels too.
Awesome. Thanks, Meredith, and for John for taking that one. So as we, kind of wrap this up, I'd love to invite Corey Sertle again, who is our president, for some closing thoughts.
Thank you, Bree. Thanks for an awesome job moderating today. And thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to our members. You have been really the ones who have made sailing possible this past summer. And it's been awesome to see all the different ways we've gotten out on the water. People have adapted and, everyone's been challenged in different ways. And again, I'd like to thank the team behind the team, our entire staff and our board. As you can tell, there is no shortage of passion for our sport. And really, everyone is just working really hard on behalf of sailing and sailors everywhere. So I look forward, hopefully, to 2021, where we can actually see each other out in the water and be together again. And thank you again for tuning in. And thank you again, Brianna, for being our moderator today. Have a great rest of your day.